Imagine standing at the edge of Tanzania's Old V Gorge, the warm African wind brushing against your face as you gaze. Across an ancient landscape that cradles humanity's deepest secrets, 2 million years stretch beneath your feet, a canyon carved by time itself, revealing layer upon layer of Earth's autobiography. The locals call it the cradle of mankind, not just poetically, but literally. Every fossil, every ancient stone tool unearthed here tells us something profound. We all came from Africa, not some of us, all of us. But this isn't just another documentary about human evolution. This is about a persistent paradox that has puzzled scientists for generations. Why did humans evolve only in Africa? What mysterious alchemy of geography, climate, and circumstance made this continent, and only this continent, the birthplace of humanity? The story begins around 2 million years ago, a time when our planet hosted several human-like species simultaneously. Australopithecines walked alongside early Homo species, their footprints sometimes crossing in the ancient mud. Now preserved as fossilized testimony to a world we can barely imagine. Somewhere in this crowded landscape of competing hominins, our direct ancestors emerged. But why here? Why not in the forests of Southeast Asia, the steppes of Central Asia, or the diverse landscapes of Europe? What made Africa special, or perhaps, what made Africa necessary for human evolution? This question becomes even more perplexing when we consider that other large mammals evolved across multiple continents. Elephants evolved independently in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Large cats appeared across different landmasses, yet humans, specifically the genus Homo, appear to have evolved exclusively in Africa. The conventional explanation has long been simple geographic distribution. Scientists suggested early hominins simply hadn't reached other continents before evolving into humans. But recent discoveries have complicated this picture significantly, pointing to something uniquely powerful about the African landscape itself. I'm going to take you on a journey through time and across continents to explore this mystery. We'll examine the Great Rift Valley's role as an evolutionary engine, investigate how climate pressure shaped our ancestors, and uncover why Africa may have been the only place that could have created humans. By the way, what first drew you to the topic of human evolution? Drop a comment below. I'm always curious about what sparks people's interest in our ancient past. The conversation around human origins is always fascinating, and I love seeing different perspectives. The evidence we'll explore comes from multiple disciplines: paleoanthropology, genetics, geology, and climatology. Together, they form a complex picture of our origins that challenges simplistic explanations and reveals the remarkable story of how we became human. In East Africa's Rift Valley, a geological wonder stretches nearly 4,000 miles from Syria to Mozambique. This massive crack in the Earth's crust created a unique environment of isolated valleys, volcanic highlands, and ever-changing landscapes that became a laboratory for evolution, unlike anywhere else on the planet. 2 million years ago, this region experienced dramatic climate fluctuations. Periods of extreme wet and dry conditions alternated rapidly, forcing populations to adapt or perish. These volatile conditions may have been the crucible in which human intelligence, adaptability, and resilience were forged. The fossil record tells us that multiple human species once walked the Earth: Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo naledi, and several others, all emerging first in Africa. The continent wasn't just our birthplace. It was a veritable factory of human experimentation, producing numerous variations on the human form. What made this evolutionary hotspot so productive? And why couldn't similar conditions elsewhere produce humans independently? The answer may lie in Africa's unique combination of geographic features, climate patterns, and biological diversity. A perfect storm of evolutionary pressure. As we explore this mystery, we'll need to challenge some fundamental assumptions about evolution itself. Is the emergence of intelligence inevitable given the right conditions, or was humanity's appearance a rare confluence of factors that happened once and could never be replicated? We'll examine competing theories about why other continents didn't produce humans independently. From geological barriers to ecological differences, from unique predator pressures to distinctive plant resources, each possibility offering a piece of this ancient puzzle. When we look at a map of early human fossil discoveries, the pattern is unmistakable. They radiate outward from Africa, like ripples from a stone dropped in water. The oldest specimens are African. The most diverse hominid fossils are African. the earliest evidence of human technology is African. This journey will take us from the sun-baked excavation sites of Ethiopia to the cutting-edge genetics laboratories of Europe and America. We'll meet the scientists dedicated to unraveling our origins and the indigenous peoples who have preserved oral traditions about humanity's beginnings. As the night deepens around us, let's walk together through humanity's dawn, through a landscape both familiar and alien, where ancestral eyes first looked up at the same stars we see today and wondered about their place in the cosmos, just as we do now. Chapter 2: The African Crucible, Why It Matters. The question of why humans evolved only in Africa isn't merely academic curiosity. It strikes at the heart of who we are as a species and how we came to be. If we can understand the unique conditions that shaped our earliest ancestors, we might better understand our own nature, our vulnerabilities, and our potential. Consider what it means that all humans share African ancestry. Despite our surface differences, our species' genetic diversity is remarkably limited compared to other primates. We are, genetically speaking, a young species, all of us more closely related than we might imagine. This genetic bottleneck suggests something profound about our origins. Our species may have emerged from a small population in a specific region of Africa, perhaps numbering just a few thousand individuals who possessed genetic traits that would eventually spread across the entire planet. If we had evolved independently on multiple continents, as many mammals did, human diversity would look radically different. We would likely have distinct human species adapted to different environments, with potentially vast genetic differences and possibly even barriers to interbreeding. This alternative evolutionary history wasn't just possible, it was probable, given what we know about evolution. The fact that it didn't happen suggests something remarkable about Africa's role as an evolutionary crucible, producing a single human lineage that eventually outcompeted all others. The stakes of this investigation extend beyond anthropology into questions of human identity. Understanding why we evolved only in Africa provides scientific foundation for the unity of humankind, challenging the artificial divisions of race that have plagued human societies. Our African origins also expose the error in traditional Eurocentric views of human development. For centuries, Western science assumed that the cradle of civilization must have been in Europe or Asia. The evidence unequivocally places it in Africa, reshaping how we understand human history. But the most compelling reason to explore this question relates to our future, not our past. By understanding the environmental conditions that produced humanity, we gain insight into what environments might sustain humanity going forward. If specific climate patterns in Africa were essential to human evolution, how might current climate change affect our continued development? Are we inadvertently altering the very environmental conditions that made us human in the first place? The geographic isolation of early humans in Africa may have protected emerging human traits. Without this isolation, would intelligence, tool use, and language have become so central to the human strategy for survival? Or would these adaptations have been unnecessary in different environments? Imagine if human-like species had evolved independently across multiple continents. Would we have encountered other human species when leaving Africa, leading to competition, cooperation, or conflict between truly different kinds of humans? How would that have shaped our history? This isn't mere speculation. We have evidence of exactly such encounters. When Homo sapiens left Africa, they encountered Neanderthals in Europe and Denisovans in Asia. Different human species who had earlier migrations from Africa. These meetings left genetic traces we still carry today. But these other humans weren't independently evolved. They too had African origins, just from earlier migrations. The true mystery is why Asia, with its diverse environments from tropical jungles to temperate forests, never produced its own human lineage without African ancestry. What if intelligent tool-using hominids had evolved from orangutan ancestors in Southeast Asia independently of African apes, or from the unique primate species of South America? Would these different paths to intelligence have produced minds that think fundamentally differently from our own? These questions touch on one of the most profound debates in evolutionary biology, the concept of evolutionary inevitability. Was the emergence of human intelligence inevitable given enough time, or was it a highly contingent outcome dependent on specific African conditions? If intelligence like ours is an evolutionary inevitability, we should expect to find it elsewhere in the universe. If instead, it required the unique conditions of the African Rift Valley, intelligence might be vanishingly rare, even on otherwise habitable planets. The Great Rift Valley created something remarkable in East Africa, a landscape of dramatic environmental contrasts within walking distance of each other, from lush forests to open savannas, from highland plateaus to lowland lakes, all within ranges that early hominins could traverse on foot. This mosaic environment may have been the key to human evolution. It rewarded adaptability over specialization, creating selection pressure for flexible behavior, tool use, and eventually the expanded cognitive abilities that define our species. The African origin of humanity also reinforces a crucial truth about our species. We are all migrants. Whether your ancestors left Africa 70,000 years ago or 400 years ago, every human family has a history of movement, adaptation, and resilience. In the context of today's debates about migration and human movement, this perspective matters profoundly. Our species' greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt to new environments, a trait first forged in the variable landscapes of East Africa. If we truly understand why humans evolved only in Africa, we gain insight into the conditions that might produce similar evolutionary leaps in the future. Will artificial environments, climate change, or even space colonization create new selective pressures that shape human evolution? The evidence we'll explore in this documentary doesn't just rewrite our understanding of the past, it offers a window into possible futures. By understanding what made us human in the first place, we can better anticipate what might make us something else in times to come. Chapter 3: The Dawn of Humanity. East Africa's unique laboratory. 2 million years ago, the world was a different place. The continents stood roughly where they are today. But Earth was in the grip of climatic cycles far more extreme than anything in recorded human history. Ice ages came and went, transforming landscapes and reshaping the possibilities for life. In this volatile world, East Africa stood out as particularly dynamic. The Great Rift Valley, a massive geological fault system, was actively tearing the continent apart, creating a complex tapestry of environments that changed dramatically over relatively short periods of time. This geological activity did more than shape the landscape. It created microclimates that could differ dramatically within walking distance of each other. A volcanic eruption might destroy one habitat while creating another. Lakes formed and vanished as rainfall patterns shifted. Meanwhile, in forests across Africa, apes similar to modern chimpanzees and gorillas lived much as they had for millions of years. These apes had already evolved remarkable intelligence compared to other mammals, using simple tools and developing complex social relationships. But something different was happening in East Africa. Around 4 to 6 million years ago, some ape populations began spending more time on the ground, eventually developing the ability to walk upright consistently, the first step toward becoming human. Why did this happen in Africa and not elsewhere? Part of the answer lies in Africa's unique geology. The formation of the Rift Valley created a stark environmental divide: dense forests to the west, emerging grasslands to the east. This division forced an evolutionary choice on ape populations caught at the boundary. Those remaining in the forests continued as apes. Those venturing into the more open woodlands and savannas faced intense pressure to adapt, pressure that ultimately led to bipedalism. The earliest evidence of these transitions comes from fossils like Sahelanthropus chadensis 7 million years ago and Orarin tugenensis 6 million years ago. These ancient specimens show early adaptations for upright walking while retaining many ape-like features. By 4 million years ago, the Australopithecines had appeared. The famous Lucy belongs to this group. These early hominins walked fully upright but had relatively small brains. They thrived in Africa for over 2 million years, diversifying into multiple species. What's crucial to understand is that this wasn't a linear progression. At any given time, multiple hominin species coexisted across Africa, sometimes in the same regions. Evolution was exploring multiple possible paths simultaneously. The fossil record reveals an extraordinary burst of hominin diversity between 4 and 1 million years ago. Robust Australopithecines with massive jaws evolved alongside more gracile species. Early members of our own genus Homo emerged among them. This diversity existed nowhere else on Earth, while Africa was producing multiple hominin species. Asia and Europe hosted various apes, but no evidence of independent human evolution. Something unique was happening in Africa. The key may have been what scientists call habitat variability. The Rift Valley created a landscape that changed dramatically over both space and time, forcing early hominins to adapt to rapidly changing conditions rather than specializing for stable environments. Think of it as evolutionary pressure, unlike anywhere else on the planet. In stable environments, specialized adaptations tend to win out. In highly variable environments, adaptability itself becomes the winning strategy. What makes humans unique is precisely this adaptability. Our ability to change our behavior rather than our bodies when faced with new challenges. This trait appears to have been forged in Africa's uniquely variable environments. Around 2.8 million years ago, something remarkable happened: the emergence of our own genus, Homo. The earliest members of our genus showed slightly larger brains, reduced jaw muscles, and the first clear evidence of stone tool production. The oldest stone tools, found at Lamak V in Kenya, date back 3.3 million years. These simple chopping stones represent a revolutionary adaptation, the external augmentation of physical abilities through technology. This cognitive leap would define human evolution going forward. Climate records show that this period coincided with increasing climate variability in East Africa. The region was oscillating between wet and dry periods with increasing frequency, creating intense pressure for behavioral flexibility. While this was happening in Africa, other continents experienced different patterns. Asia had its own climate fluctuations, but lacked the specific combination of geological activity, habitat mosaics, and primate diversity found in East Africa. The question remains, why didn't similar evolutionary pressures in Asia produce similar results? After all, Asia had apes, variable environments, and periods of climate change too. What made Africa special? One theory involves Africa's predator diversity. East Africa hosted an extraordinary concentration of large predators, creating unique pressures on early hominins. This may have accelerated the development of social cooperation, tool use, and eventually increased brain size. Another factor was Africa's position straddling the equator. This geographical reality meant that when climate change caused forests to shrink, they retreated both northward and southward, creating isolated forest islands that might have accelerated speciation. The Great Rift Valley itself created a unique dynamic. As this massive geological feature formed, it created barriers that could isolate populations, allowing them to evolve separately, then reconnect during climate shifts, a perfect recipe for evolutionary experimentation. By 2 million years ago, at least 3 distinct human species existed in Africa. Homo habilis, with its slightly larger brain and more human-like proportions, Homo rudolfensis, with its distinctive facial features, and the more advanced Homo erectus, who would eventually leave Africa. Each represents a different evolutionary experiment, different combinations of traits being tested against the challenges of survival in Africa's diverse environments. Some would thrive, others would disappear. Natural selection in action. What's striking is that all these experiments were happening only in Africa. Despite similar ape species in Asia that could have potentially evolved along similar lines, the fossil record shows no evidence of independent human evolution outside Africa. Chapter 4. The first evidence following the fossil trail. The first tangible evidence of our African origins came in 1924, when anatomist Raymond Dart received a box of fossils from a limestone quarry in South Africa. Among them was the skull of a young child, what Dart would name Australopithecus africanus, the southern ape of Africa. Dart immediately recognized something remarkable about this fossil. The position of the foramen magnum, the hole where the spinal cord connects to the brain, indicated that this creature walked upright, yet its brain was small, like an ape's. This combination of traits challenged the prevailing wisdom of the time. Most scientists expected human ancestors to have evolved large brains first, then bipedalism. Australopithecus showed the opposite. Upright walking preceded brain expansion by millions of years. The scientific establishment initially rejected Dart's interpretation. Europe was still considered the most likely cradle of humanity, and many dismissed the African fossil as simply an ape. It would take decades for the African origin of humans to gain acceptance. The discovery in 1959 of Zinj by Mary Leakey in Olduvai Gorge changed everything. This robust Australopithecine, later classified as Paranthropus boisei, was undeniably ancient and clearly a hominin. It demonstrated that East Africa had been home to human relatives for millions of years. If you've ever wondered what originally sparked your interest in human origins, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. These discoveries fundamentally changed how we see ourselves, and I'm always curious about what aspects of human evolution most captivate people. When Louis and Mary Leakey later discovered Homo habilis at Olduvai, the evidence became overwhelming. Here was a creature with a larger brain than Australopithecines, found alongside simple stone tools. The timeline of human evolution in Africa was becoming clearer, but a fundamental question remained unanswered. Why only Africa? If similar environmental conditions existed elsewhere, why didn't parallel evolution produce human-like species in Asia, Europe, or the Americas? The most compelling evidence for Africa's uniqueness emerged as paleoclimatologists reconstructed ancient climate patterns. East Africa experienced dramatic climate fluctuations at precisely the time human evolution was accelerating. These fluctuations were more pronounced than in other regions. Lake bed cores from East African rift lakes revealed these patterns with remarkable precision. Layers of sediment show alternating wet and dry periods, creating what scientists call pulsed climate variability, rapid shifts between different conditions that forced adaptation. While other regions experienced climate change, the specific pattern in East Africa was unique. The orientation of the Rift Valley, combined with the region's position relative to ocean currents, created a climate system with distinct patterns of variability. Between 2.5 and 2.0 million years ago, East Africa experienced rapid oscillations between wet and dry periods. These shifts could occur within a single millennium, fast enough that populations couldn't simply migrate away, but had to adapt to changing conditions. The fossil evidence aligns perfectly with this climate data. The period of greatest hominin diversity and the emergence of our genus, Homo, coincides precisely with this period of intense climate variability in East Africa. Genetics provides another line of evidence for our exclusively African origins. Studies of both mitochondrial DNA passed from mother to child and Y chromosome DNA passed from father to son trace all living humans back to African populations. This genetic evidence is unequivocal. All non-African populations represent subsets of African genetic diversity. The greatest human genetic diversity is found within Africa itself, exactly as we would expect if humans evolved there and only a subset migrated outward. What's particularly telling is the timing. Genetic evidence suggests that all non-African humans descend from populations that left Africa within the last 50,000 to 70,000 years. Earlier migrations occurred, but those lineages were largely replaced by this later wave. The comparative study of primate evolution offers further clues. Great apes evolved across Africa and Asia, suggesting nothing fundamentally prevented Asian apes from evolving along human-like paths. Yet the fossil record shows they didn't. This strongly suggests that specific conditions in Africa, not just the presence of apes, were necessary for human evolution. Something about the African environment created evolutionary pressures that didn't exist elsewhere, or existed in different combinations. Geological evidence provides insight into what made Africa special. The Great Rift Valley system created a uniquely fragmented landscape where populations could become isolated, develop adaptations, then reconnect and compete. A perfect recipe for rapid evolution. This geological system has no precise equivalent elsewhere on Earth. While other regions have rift valleys, none have the same combination of equatorial position, elevation gradients, and climatic dynamics that characterized East Africa during human evolution. The earliest stone tools tell an important story as well. They appear first in Africa around 3.3 million years ago, with more advanced old down tools by 2.6 million years ago. This technology appears nowhere else until much later, after humans had left Africa. This technological evidence is crucial. It shows that the cognitive adaptations for tool production, planning, fine motor control, mental modeling evolved specifically in African environments before spreading elsewhere with migrating human populations. Perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from comparing Africa to other continents. Asia, with its diverse environments and multiple ape species, would seem an equally likely birthplace for humans. Yet despite extensive paleontological work, no evidence of independent human evolution appears there. This absence of evidence is telling. It's not that scientists haven't looked for human origins outside Africa. They have, extensively. The evidence simply points consistently and exclusively to Africa as humanity's birthplace. Recent discoveries continue to reinforce this pattern. When new hominin fossils are found, like Homo naledi in South Africa or Homo floresiensis in Indonesia, genetic and anatomical analysis invariably traces their lineage back to African origins, even the most isolated and unusual human populations. Like the early settlers of Australia or the Americas, carry genetic markers linking them directly to African ancestors. No truly independent lineage of humans exists anywhere on Earth, but a profound mystery remains at the heart of this evidence. If human-like intelligence and adaptability provided such evolutionary advantages, why did these traits evolve only once, in one place? Why didn't similar environmental pressures elsewhere produce similar results? This is where our investigation takes an unexpected turn. The answer may lie not just in what made Africa special, but in what made early humans special among Africa's many hominin species. Why did one lineage, our own, succeed while others disappeared? Recent research suggests that the key may have been a unique combination of climate instability and social adaptability. East Africa's rapidly changing environments favored species that could share information across generations, the foundation of cumulative culture. As we stand at this pivotal moment in our understanding, the evidence points to an extraordinary conclusion. Africa wasn't just where humans happened to evolve. It may have been the only place on Earth with the specific conditions necessary to create our species. What if human evolution required a perfect storm of conditions that existed only in Africa? What if our existence hinged on that specific combination of climate variability, geological activity, predator pressure, and resource distribution found only in the African Rift Valley? If this is true, it would transform our understanding of humanity's place in the universe. It would suggest that intelligence like ours isn't an inevitable outcome of evolution, but a highly contingent one dependent on a rare confluence of factors that might be vanishingly uncommon, even on habitable worlds. The implications would be profound, touching on everything from our search for extraterrestrial intelligence to our understanding of human nature itself. If we are truly the product of Africa's unique evolutionary laboratory, what does that tell us about who we really are? As we continue our journey deeper into this mystery, we'll need to examine not just why humans evolved in Africa, but why they evolved at all. What was it about this time, this place, these conditions that gave rise to a species capable of reshaping an entire planet? Chapter 5: The Puzzling Paradoxes of Human Origins. As we examine the evidence for humanity's African origins, several contradictions emerge that challenge our understanding. These inconsistencies don't necessarily undermine the African origin theory, but they do suggest that the story is more complex than we initially thought. The first contradiction concerns the timing of human migrations out of Africa. While genetic evidence points to a major exodus around 70,000 years ago, older human fossils have been discovered outside Africa that don't fit neatly into this timeline. In Dmancy, Georgia, archaeologists have uncovered 1.8 million-year-old Homo erectus fossils. These early humans left Africa far earlier than the out-of-Africa theory initially proposed, yet they didn't evolve into modern humans outside Africa, raising questions about why independent human evolution didn't occur. Even more puzzling is the recent discovery of 2.1 million-year-old stone tools in China. If accurate, this finding suggests either an earlier migration from Africa than previously thought, or the independent development of stone tool technology in Asia. These anomalies force us to consider more complex models of human dispersal and evolution, rather than a single exodus. Humans may have left Africa in multiple waves over millions of years, with earlier migrants being replaced by later ones. Another contradiction emerges when we consider brain size evolution. If increasing intelligence was so advantageous in Africa, why didn't similar selective pressures produce large-brained hominins elsewhere? Other regions faced climate variability and predator pressures too. The Neanderthals present an interesting case study. These humans evolved primarily outside Africa, though from African ancestors, and developed brains actually larger than Homo sapiens. Yet they were eventually replaced by our species, suggesting brain size alone wasn't the determining factor. Recent genomic studies add another layer of complexity. They revealed that when modern humans left Africa, they interbred with Neanderthals, Denisovans, and possibly other archaic human species. These interbreeding events contributed up to 4% of non-African human DNA. This genetic exchange raises profound questions about what defines our species. If modern humans could successfully reproduce with other human lineages, were we truly separate species? Or are we simply the last surviving variation of a once diverse human family tree? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this fascinating question of human interbreeding. Has learning about our shared DNA with Neanderthals changed how you think about human uniqueness? These ancient connections to other human species challenge us to reconsider what it means to be human. Perhaps the most significant contradiction concerns the speed of human evolution. The transition from Australopithecines to early Homo to modern humans appears to have accelerated unusually fast compared to typical evolutionary timeframes. Some paleoanthropologists have suggested that this acceleration defies standard evolutionary models. The tripling of human brain size in less than 2 million years represents one of the fastest evolutionary chains ever documented in the fossil record. This rapid evolution might indicate unique selective pressures in Africa. But it also raises the question of whether traditional evolutionary mechanisms alone can explain the emergence of human intelligence and culture. Another puzzling aspect is the ecological flexibility of early humans. Unlike most species that evolve for specific ecological niches, humans developed adaptations that allowed them to thrive across vastly different environments, from tropical forests to Arctic tundra. This ecological generalism is extremely rare in evolution. Most species become increasingly specialized, not more generalized. Humans broke this pattern, suggesting something unusual about the evolutionary pressures that shaped us. The unique pattern of human childhood presents another anomaly. Humans have extraordinarily long childhoods compared to other primates, requiring years of parental care before independence. This extended dependency is energetically costly and risky. From an evolutionary perspective, this lengthy developmental period should be selected against. Yet it persisted and intensified in human evolution, suggesting powerful compensatory benefits likely related to learning and cultural transmission. The combination of these traits, rapid brain evolution, ecological flexibility, and extended childhood, appears nowhere else in the evolutionary record. This unique constellation suggests something extraordinary about the conditions that produced humans. Another contradiction emerges when we consider parallel evolution. Throughout evolutionary history, similar adaptations often evolve independently when different species face similar environmental pressures. A process called convergent evolution. Wings evolved independently in birds, bats, and insects. Eyes evolved dozens of times. Yet intelligence, comparable to humans, appears to have evolved only once, despite millions of species facing complex environmental challenges requiring problem-solving abilities. This absence of convergent evolution toward human-like intelligence is striking. If intelligence offers such tremendous survival advantages, why hasn't it evolved repeatedly? What barriers might prevent this seemingly advantageous adaptation from emerging more commonly? Even within the primate order, our closest relatives show limited convergent evolution toward human traits. Asian orangutans evolved in isolation from African apes for millions of years, yet didn't develop human-like characteristics despite facing complex ecological challenges. This suggests that something truly unique about African environments, or perhaps a specific sequence of events, was necessary for human evolution. The emergence of our species may have required a precise evolutionary pathway that was highly unlikely to occur independently. Examining the brain itself reveals further anomalies. Human brains aren't simply scaled-up primate brains. They show reorganization, with disproportionate growth in areas associated with language, social cognition, and abstract thinking. This neural reorganization suggests qualitative, not just quantitative, evolutionary changes. Something about the selective pressures in Africa didn't just favor larger brains, but fundamentally different brains optimized for communication, cooperation, and cultural learning. Another contradiction concerns the disappearance of other human species. Why did Homo sapiens survive while numerous other human species went extinct? What advantage did our species possess that others lacked despite similar brain sizes and tool technologies? Recent evidence suggests that Homo sapiens wasn't necessarily more intelligent than Neanderthals. Both made sophisticated tools, controlled fire, buried their dead, and likely had language, yet only our lineage survived to dominate the planet. This raises profound questions about what truly defines human uniqueness. If not simply intelligence, what combination of traits, perhaps social organization, language complexity, or adaptability, gave our specific lineage its evolutionary edge? The geographical pattern of human evolution presents additional puzzles. While hominin fossils are found throughout Africa, the most important transitions from Australopithecines to early Homo N and from early Homo to modern humans appear concentrated in East Africa. This regional concentration, primarily along the Rift Valley, suggests that something specific about this environment, beyond just Africa in general, was crucial to human evolution. What made this particular region so central to our origins? As we examine these contradictions and anomalies, a more nuanced picture emerges. Human evolution wasn't a simple, linear process occurring evenly across Africa. It was a complex, multi-layered story with regional variations and unexpected twists. These complexities don't invalidate the African origin theory, they enrich it. But they do force us to reconsider simplistic explanations and look deeper at what specific combination of factors made human evolution possible, and why those factors converged only in Africa. Chapter 6. Ancient memories throughout human history. Cultures across the world have preserved origin stories and creation myths. While these narratives can't be taken as literal accounts, they sometimes preserve kernels of ancient memories, echoes of events too distant for conventional history, but embedded in cultural consciousness. Many African cultural traditions contain intriguing references to human origins. The San people of southern Africa, among the oldest continuous cultures on Earth, preserve stories about how humans first separated from animals, narratives with surprising parallels to evolutionary theory. The San creation stories speak of a time when humans and animals were not yet distinct. They describe a gradual differentiation, with humans gaining unique characteristics over time, an indigenous understanding that mirrors, in metaphorical terms, the scientific account of human evolution. What's remarkable is that these oral traditions survived tens of thousands of years. Passed down through generations long before writing existed, they suggest cultural memory of evolutionary processes that science has only recently documented. Other African myths contain references to before times when different types of humans existed. Some traditional stories mention smaller, hair-covered people who preceded modern humans. Intriguing parallels to the diverse hominin species documented in the fossil record, these mythological parallels aren't limited to Africa. Indigenous Australian stories describe the time of dreaming when the landscape and its inhabitants were formed. These narratives sometimes reference different types of humans that once existed alongside modern people. Could these widespread myths preserve distant memories of times when multiple human species coexisted? When Homo sapiens encountered Neanderthals, Denisovans, or other archaic humans? The chronological depth of oral tradition remains debated, but the parallels are suggestive. Beyond mythology, certain archaeological finds don't fit neatly into the established timeline. These anomalous discoveries, what some call out-of-place artifacts, don't necessarily contradict the African origin theory, but may require us to revise aspects of human technological development. One puzzling example comes from Calico Hills in California. Excavations in the 1960s uncovered what appeared to be crude stone tools dated to over 200,000 years ago, long before humans were thought to have reached the Americas. Most archaeologists dismiss these as naturally fractured rocks, but similar controversial finds exist worldwide. From the Cerruti Mastodon site in California, with possible 130,000-year-old tools to the Huayatlaco site in Mexico, with disputed 250,000-year-old artifacts. These anomalies persist at the margins of archaeological acceptance. The conventional explanation attributes these anomalies to misinterpretation. Natural processes can create rock formations that resemble tools. Dating methods can be contaminated. Yet the persistence of these findings across different sites raises questions worth exploring. If you've encountered archaeological mysteries that fascinate you, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. The borderlands between established science and unexplained anomalies often spark the most interesting conversations about human origins. Another category of evidence comes from genetic studies of isolated populations. Some indigenous groups preserved genetic lineages that diverged much earlier than expected, suggesting complex patterns of human migration and isolation not captured by simpler models. The Andamanese Islanders in the Indian Ocean carry genetic signatures of extremely ancient separation from other human populations. They appear to descend from an early wave of migration out of Africa, potentially preserving genetic traits from earlier human dispersals. Similarly, certain African populations, like the Khoisan, carry genetic lineages that diverged from other humans over 200,000 years ago. This deep genetic separation suggests that human evolutionary history in Africa itself was more complex than initially thought. These genetic findings don't contradict the African origin theory. Rather, they suggest multiple waves of population differentiation, isolation, and reconnection, a complex demographic history that challenges linear models of human development. Some of the most intriguing evidence comes from unexpected cognitive abilities in non-human species. Great apes demonstrate tool use, rudimentary language, acquisition, self-awareness, and cultural transmission traits once thought uniquely human. Ravens and crows show remarkable problem-solving abilities and can craft tools. Elephants recognize themselves in mirrors and appear to mourn their dead. Dolphins have complex communication systems and demonstrate abstract thinking. These cognitive parallels raise profound questions about the evolution of intelligence. If these capabilities evolved independently in distantly related species, why didn't they progress to human-like intelligence in at least some non-African environments? One explanation involves the concept of evolutionary constraints. Physical and developmental limitations may have prevented other lineages from evolving human-like brains, despite selective pressure for increased intelligence. For instance, birds show remarkable cognitive abilities, but face constraints from their lightweight skulls. Dolphins demonstrate complex cognition, but lack manipulative appendages to fully utilize technological solutions. These physical constraints may have limited their evolutionary pathways. However, other great apes faced no such obvious physical constraints. Orangutans have dexterous hands and large bodies capable of supporting substantial brains. Yet they didn't evolve human-like intelligence despite millions of years of separate evolution in Asian forests. This suggests something specific about African environments beyond just selecting for intelligence generally shaped human evolution. The question isn't just why intelligence evolved, but why that intelligence took this particular human form. Another category of unexplained evidence comes from the technological achievements of early humans. The cognitive leap from simple stone tools to complex symbolic thought seems extraordinarily rapid from an evolutionary perspective. By 100,000 years ago, humans in Africa were creating abstract art, complex tools, and symbolic objects. This represents not just technological advancement, but a fundamental shift in cognitive capabilities. What some archaeologists call the symbolic revolution. The speed of this transition challenges traditional evolutionary models. How did humans develop these advanced cognitive capabilities so quickly? What selective pressures could produce such rapid mental evolution within a relatively short time frame? Some researchers have proposed controversial theories about genetic bottlenecks or hopeful monster mutations. These suggest that small genetic changes might have produced outsized effects on cognitive architecture, essentially rewiring the human brain in evolutionary jumps. While such theories remain speculative, they attempt to explain the apparently rapid emergence of modern human cognition. The fossil and archaeological record shows a remarkably swift transition that standard gradualist evolutionary models struggle to fully explain. The distribution of early advanced technologies presents another puzzle. Sophisticated stone tool technologies appear nearly simultaneously across widely separated parts of Africa around 300,000 to 200,000 years ago. This synchronicity is difficult to explain through gradual diffusion alone. It suggests either parallel innovation or more extensive networks of communication and cultural exchange than previously recognized in Middle Pleistocene Africa. The emergence of language adds another layer of mystery. No direct evidence of language exists in the archaeological record. Yet this uniquely human adaptation was crucial to our evolutionary success. When and how language evolved remains hotly debated. Some evidence suggests rudimentary language capabilities in earlier human species, while other researchers argue that full syntactic language emerged only with Homo sapiens? What environmental pressures would select specifically for advanced linguistic abilities? And why would these pressures exist only in Africa, despite similar social and ecological challenges facing intelligent species elsewhere? These questions lead us to consider the possibility that human evolution followed a highly specific pathway, rather than an inevitable outcome of natural selection favoring intelligence. Our species may represent a unique evolutionary experiment, one that required very particular conditions found only in Africa. This possibility doesn't diminish human achievement, but it does suggest that our existence wasn't inevitable, that we are the product of a remarkable and perhaps unrepeatable confluence of evolutionary factors specific to African environments. As we examine these myths and unexplained evidences, we begin to see human evolution not as a straightforward march of progress, but as a complex contingent process shaped by specific geographical, ecological, and social conditions that converged uniquely in Africa. Chapter 7. The Evolutionary Gamble. What's really at stake? As we delve deeper into the mystery of Africa's exclusive role in human evolution, the stakes of our investigation grow more profound. This isn't merely an academic question about the past. It touches on fundamental aspects of human identity and our future as a species. The evidence we've examined points to something remarkable. Human evolution may have required a specific set of conditions found only in Africa. If true, this realization transforms our understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos. Consider the implications for our search for extraterrestrial intelligence. If human-like cognition required highly specific evolutionary circumstances, intelligent life elsewhere might be vanishingly rare, even on planets capable of supporting complex life. The evolution of intelligence on Earth appears to have followed a narrow contingent path, not an inevitable progression, but a fragile sequence of events that might easily never have occurred, and apparently did not occur independently in non-African environments. This perspective challenges the assumption that intelligence represents an evolutionary pinnacle that multiple species would naturally achieve. Perhaps advanced cognition like ours is an evolutionary accident rather than a predictable outcome. What makes this question so crucial is how it reshapes our perspective on human uniqueness. Are we the product of universal evolutionary principles that would produce similar results elsewhere? Or are we the outcome of a highly specific, perhaps unrepeatable, evolutionary experiment? The answer has profound implications for how we understand ourselves. If human evolution required Africa's specific conditions, then our existence hinges on geographical and climatic factors that might be rare, even on habitable worlds. This perspective heightens our responsibility as stewards of Earth's biosphere. If the conditions that produced humanity were rare and precious, then preserving Earth's evolutionary laboratory becomes not just ethically important, but essential for understanding our own nature. The stakes extend to our understanding of consciousness itself. Is self-awareness an inevitable outcome of sufficient neural complexity? Or did it emerge through a specific evolutionary pathway shaped by Africa's unique selective pressures? Recent neuroscience suggests that consciousness may be intimately linked to social cognition. Our awareness of our own minds may have evolved primarily to understand others, MINDs, a capability forged in the complex social dynamics of early human groups. If true, this suggests that the particular form of human consciousness arose from specific social pressures in African environments. Different evolutionary pressures might have produced entirely different forms of intelligence, perhaps equally complex but fundamentally alien to our own. This raises a startling possibility. Even if intelligence evolved elsewhere in the universe, it might operate according to principles unrecognizable to us. Non-human intelligence might perceive, think, and experience consciousness in ways we cannot readily comprehend. As we contemplate these implications, a deeper question emerges. What specific combination of factors made Africa the exclusive cradle of humanity? Was it something in the physical environment, the biological community, or perhaps a unique sequence of events? Recent research points to several critical factors that converged uniquely in Africa. First, the Rift Valley created a landscape of extraordinary environmental diversity within small geographical areas, a mosaic of habitats unlike anywhere else on Earth. Second, Africa experienced climate oscillations of particular frequency and intensity. Studies of lake sediments show that East Africa underwent rapid wet-dry cycles at precisely the time human evolution accelerated, creating intense selective pressure for adaptability. Third, Africa hosted the highest diversity of large predators during the Pleistocene. This predation pressure likely intensified selection for social cooperation, tool use, and intelligence among early hominins. Fourth, the continent's orientation along north-south lines meant that climate changes forced adaptations rather than simple migrations. While species in east-west oriented continents could migrate to maintain preferred conditions, African species often had to adapt to changing environments. Finally, Africa's position, straddling the equator, created unique patterns of habitat fragmentation during climate shifts. As environments changed, populations became isolated, then reconnected in patterns particularly conducive to speciation and evolutionary experimentation. This combination of factors appears to have existed nowhere else on Earth, and the implications are profound. If human evolution required this specific confluence of conditions, then our existence was far from inevitable. The rarity of these conditions might explain why intelligence like ours evolved. Only once in Earth's 4.5 billion-year history, despite billions of species and multiple mass extinctions creating evolutionary opportunities, human-like intelligence appeared only in Africa within the last 2 million years. This perspective challenges us to reconsider our place in the universe. Far from being the inevitable outcome of evolution, we may be the result of an improbable series of events, a cosmic accident rather than a cosmic destiny. Yet this realization doesn't diminish human significance, it enhances it. If we are the product of rare evolutionary circumstances, then our existence becomes all the more precious and our responsibility to preserve Earth's biosphere all the more profound. The stakes extend to how we approach the future of human evolution, as we develop technologies that could alter our biology from genetic engineering to brain-computer interfaces. Understanding the evolutionary pressures that shaped us becomes crucial. Without this understanding, we risk severing ourselves from the very conditions that produced our unique human qualities. The intelligence, creativity, and social cooperation that define us were forged in specific evolutionary contexts that technology might inadvertently disrupt. This raises urgent questions about human enhancement technologies. How might genetic modifications or neural implants affect the delicate balance of traits that constitute humanity? Could technological improvements inadvertently undermine aspects of our nature evolved for specific purposes? Climate change adds another dimension to these stakes. If specific environmental conditions were essential to human evolution, how might anthropogenic climate change affect human cognitive and social development going forward? Some research suggests that the volatile climate of East Africa was crucial in selecting for human adaptability. If we create artificially stable environments through technology, might we inadvertently select for different cognitive traits than those that defined our evolutionary success? The evidence points to an unsettling possibility. The conditions that created humanity may no longer exist. Through our technological modification of Earth's climate and ecosystems, we may have unwittingly altered the evolutionary laboratory that produced our species. This doesn't mean humans will cease to evolve, but it does suggest that future human evolution might follow paths very different from those that produced our current form of intelligence, sociality, and consciousness. As we alter Earth's climate and fragment natural habitats, we may be unintentionally conducting a massive evolutionary experiment, one that could reshape human cognitive evolution in ways we cannot predict or perhaps even recognize. These considerations elevate our investigation beyond academic curiosity. Understanding why humans evolved only in Africa becomes essential to understanding what makes us human at all, and what aspects of our nature we might risk losing through environmental change. The most profound implication concerns the contingency of human existence. If slight variations in Earth's climate patterns or geological activity might have prevented human evolution entirely, our existence appears remarkably fortuitous. This perspective doesn't require any supernatural explanation, but it does suggest that in the vast space of evolutionary possibilities, the emergence of human intelligence represented an unlikely outcome, one that required specific conditions found only in Africa. As we approach the climax of our investigation, an extraordinary possibility emerges. What if Africa wasn't just where humans happened to evolve, but the only place in the universe where humans could have evolved? What if the specific combination of factors we've identified, the Rift Valley's mosaic environments, the particular pattern of climate oscillations, the unique predator communities, the geographic orientation represents a cosmic rarity rather than a universal pattern? This would transform our understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos, not just as an intelligent species that happened to evolve on Earth, but as beings whose very existence required a precise and perhaps vanishingly uncommon set of evolutionary conditions. The evidence points toward a startling realization. We may owe our existence not just to Africa generally, but to specific valleys, specific climate patterns, and specific evolutionary pressures that existed in East Africa during a narrow window of Earth's history. If this is true, then Africa isn't just our homeland in a geographical sense. It's our homeland in an existential sense, the only place in the universe where beings like us could have evolved at all. This realization would upend our understanding of cosmic evolution, rather than seeing intelligence as an inevitable outcome of sufficient time and stability. We might need to view it as dependent on highly specific conditions that rarely converge even on habitable worlds. As we prepare to examine the final pieces of evidence, the question becomes not just why humans evolved only in Africa, but whether understanding Africa's unique role in human evolution might help us predict the likelihood or rarity of intelligence elsewhere in the cosmos. The answer may fundamentally reshape how we understand our place in the universe, and what responsibility we bear as possibly one of the few, or perhaps the only, technological intelligences to have evolved in our galaxy. Chapter 8. Competing Theories, Testing Alternative Explanations, as we approach the heart of our investigation. We must consider alternative theories that might explain why humans evolved exclusively in Africa. Several competing hypotheses have emerged from the scientific community, each with its own evidence and implications. The first major competing theory is the environmental determinism hypothesis. This proposes that Africa's unique combination of climate variability, ecological diversity, and geological features created selection pressures that specifically favored human traits like bipedalism, tool use, and increased intelligence. According to this theory, no other continent possessed the precise environmental conditions necessary to drive human evolution. The distinctive mosaic habitats of East Africa, coupled with rapid climate oscillations, created evolutionary pressures that simply didn't exist elsewhere with the same intensity or configuration. The evidence supporting this theory is substantial. Climate records confirm that East Africa experienced uniquely variable conditions during critical periods of human evolution. The Great Rift Valley created a landscape of remarkable ecological diversity within relatively small geographical areas. Environmental determinism explains why early hominin species thrived in Africa but not elsewhere. It suggests that the specific adaptations defining our lineage, upright walking, tool use, increased brain size, were direct responses to Africa's particular environmental challenges. However, critics point out that other regions experienced climate variability. Southeast Asia underwent significant environmental changes during the same periods, yet didn't produce hominin species independently. This suggests something more than just environmental conditions was necessary. The second major competing theory is the biogeographic constraint hypothesis. This proposes that human evolution was limited to Africa, not because other environments couldn't support it, but because the necessary ancestral species were restricted to Africa. According to this view, the common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees lived only in Africa. Humans evolved from this ancestor in Africa simply because that's where these primates were located, not because Africa offered uniquely suitable evolutionary conditions. The evidence for biogeographic constraint includes the distribution of great apes. During the crucial period when hominins were diverging from other apes, the African great apes, chimpanzees, and gorillas were confined to Africa, while Asian apes, orangutans, and gibbons were in Asia. This theory would predict that had the ancestral population of African apes somehow migrated to Asia before hominin traits evolved, human-like species might have evolved in Asia instead. Africa's role was circumstantial rather than essential. However, this theory struggles to explain why Asian apes didn't evolve hominin-like traits independently. Both orangutans and gibbons faced their own environmental challenges, yet neither developed bipedalism, significantly enlarged brains, or sophisticated tool use comparable to African hominins. A third compelling theory combines elements of both previous hypotheses: the coevolutionary arms race theory. This suggests that Africa's unique predator community created selective pressure for intelligence and social cooperation that didn't exist elsewhere. Africa historically hosted the greatest diversity of large predators on any continent. Early hominins faced lions, leopards, saber-toothed cats, hyenas, and giant birds of prey. This intense predation pressure may have accelerated the evolution of defensive strategies requiring intelligence. Evidence supporting this theory includes studies of predator-prey relationships in modern ecosystems. Species facing diverse predator threats often develop more sophisticated anti-predator behaviors compared to those with fewer predators. Intelligence offers significant survival advantages in such contexts. This theory explains why intelligence like ours didn't evolve in other environments with similar climate patterns. Without Africa's specific predator community, the selection pressure for advanced cognitive abilities may have been insufficient to drive the evolution of human-like intelligence. However, critics note that many other species faced the same predator pressure without evolving human-like traits. Other African mammals coexisted with the same predator community, yet followed different evolutionary trajectories. Predation alone cannot fully explain human uniqueness. A fourth theory worth considering is the social brain hypothesis with an African context. This proposes that the specific social challenges faced by early African hominins, particularly competition between groups for limited resources, drove the evolution of larger brains. According to this view, Africa's particular distribution of resources, concentrated in patchy defensible areas, created conditions where group competition and cooperation became unusually important. This social pressure selected for enhanced cognitive abilities related to social intelligence. Evidence for this theory includes the correlation between primate brain size and social group complexity. Primates living in larger, more complex social groups tend to have larger brains relative to body size. Humans represent the extreme of this trend. This theory suggests that while similar environmental conditions might have existed elsewhere, the specific social dynamics that emerged in African hominin populations created unique selection pressures favoring the cognitive abilities that define our lineage. The limitation of this theory is that it doesn't fully explain why similar social pressures didn't produce similar results in other primate populations. Many non-African primates live in complex social groups, yet didn't evolve human-like intelligence. Evaluating these competing theories requires us to consider which best explains the available evidence. Each captures important aspects of human evolution, but none seems completely satisfactory on its own. Environmental determinism explains the specific adaptations seen in early hominins, but struggles to account for why similar environments elsewhere didn't produce similar results. Biogeographic constraint explains the geographic limitation, but not the specific trajectory of human evolution. The predator-driven hypothesis accounts for the accelerated evolution of intelligence, but cannot explain why other African species didn't evolve similar traits. The social brain hypothesis explains the enlargement of the human brain, but not necessarily other uniquely human traits. Perhaps the most compelling explanation combines elements of all these theories. Human evolution may have required a perfect storm of conditions, the right ancestral species, in the right environmental context, with the right predator community and the right social dynamics. This integrated theory suggests that human evolution was contingent on multiple factors converging specifically in Africa. No other location had all the necessary ingredients simultaneously, explaining why humans evolved only in this one continent. The evidence increasingly points toward this integrated explanation. Recent studies show that even within Africa, human evolution was concentrated in regions where these multiple factors converged, particularly in East Africa's Rift Valley system. This multi-factor hypothesis helps explain why intelligence like ours evolved only once in Earth's history. If human evolution required this specific confluence of factors, it would be extremely unlikely to occur independently in multiple locations or at multiple times. As we consider these competing theories, we must acknowledge that they aren't mutually exclusive. Each may capture different aspects of the complex process that led to human evolution. The truth likely incorporates elements from all of these explanations. What emerges from this analysis is a picture of human evolution as highly contingent, not an inevitable outcome of natural selection, but the product of specific circumstances that converged uniquely in Africa during a particular window of Earth's history. Chapter 9. Frontiers of Understanding. New Evidence and Persistent Paradoxes. Recent scientific advances have dramatically expanded our understanding of human origins. New fossil discoveries, genomic analysis, and innovative dating techniques have reshaped the timeline of human evolution and migration. Yet paradoxes remain that continue to challenge our understanding. Perhaps the most significant recent advance comes from paleogenomics, the analysis of ancient DNA. This revolutionary technique allows scientists to extract genetic material from fossils hundreds of thousands of years old, providing unprecedented insight into human evolutionary history. Ancient DNA has revealed that human evolution was far more complex than previously thought. Rather than a simple family tree, human evolution resembles a tangled web of populations that separated, reconnected, and interbred over hundreds of thousands of years. For instance, genetic analysis of a 400,000-year-old hominin from Spain, Cima de los Huesos, revealed unexpected connections to both Neanderthals and Denisovans. This finding complicated our understanding of when these lineages diverged and how they related to each other. I've always wondered what you find most fascinating about human evolution. If you're watching this, what aspect of our ancient past intrigues you most? Your comments help shape future episodes, and I love seeing what resonates with different viewers. More recently, analysis of DNA from a 90-year-old bone fragment from Denisova Cave in Russia revealed something extraordinary. The individual was a first-generation hybrid. Her mother was Neanderthal and her father Denisovan, providing direct evidence of interbreeding between distinct human lineages. These genetic discoveries reveal a persistent paradox. Despite evidence that different human lineages could interbreed, they maintained distinct identities for hundreds of thousands of years. This challenges our understanding of how species boundaries operate in human evolution. If Neanderthals, Denisovans, and modern humans could produce fertile offspring, were they truly separate species? Or were they subspecies of a single, highly diverse human species? This question remains contentious among paleoanthropologists. Another frontier of research involves ancient protein analysis. This technique can extract evolutionary information from fossils too old for DNA recovery, potentially extending our window into human evolution by millions of years. Recent protein analysis of a 1.9 million-year-old Homo erectus from Demanasi, Georgia, confirmed its close relationship to later Homo species. This supports the hypothesis that Homo erectus represents the first hominin to leave Africa in significant numbers. Yet this early exodus presents a paradox. If Homo erectus could successfully leave Africa and colonize much of Eurasia, why didn't this species evolve into modern humans outside Africa? What prevented parallel human evolution despite similar selective pressures? The paradox deepens when we consider that Homo erectus survived for nearly 2 million years across a vast geographic range. This remarkable success suggests the species was highly adaptable, yet it never developed the specific cognitive advances that characterized later Homo sapiens. New archaeological discoveries have also transformed our understanding of early human capabilities. Recent findings suggest that Neanderthals created cave art, or jewelry, and used complex symbolic communication behaviors once thought unique to Homo sapiens. These discoveries blur the behavioral boundaries between human species. If Neanderthals possessed symbolic thinking and artistic expression, what cognitive abilities truly distinguished Homo sapiens from other human lineages? The paradox becomes even more pronounced when we consider that Neanderthals had slightly larger brains than modern humans, on average, yet they were eventually replaced by our species. This challenges simplistic narratives about brain size determining evolutionary success. Another significant advance comes from improved climate reconstruction techniques. High-resolution climate records now allow scientists to correlate evolutionary changes with specific environmental shifts at a much finer scale than previously possible. These climate records reveal that periods of greatest environmental variability coincide with major transitions in human evolution. The emergence of Homo, the development of advanced stone tools, and the evolution of Homo sapiens all occurred during periods of pronounced climate fluctuation. This correlation supports the hypothesis that environmental variability specifically selected for behavioral flexibility and innovation. Yet it deepens the paradox of why similar climate fluctuations elsewhere didn't produce similar evolutionary outcomes. Recent excavations have also pushed back the timeline of sophisticated human behaviors. Stone tools requiring complex planning have been found in Kenya dating to 3.3 million years ago, predating the genus Homo, and suggesting that advanced cognition began evolving earlier than previously thought. Similarly, evidence of systematic seafood exploitation, once thought to be a relatively recent human adaptation, has been found at 160,000-year-old sites in South Africa. This suggests that coastal adaptation and the nutritional benefits of seafood may have played important roles in human cognitive evolution. These findings challenge linear models of human cognitive development. Rather than a steady progression of abilities, human evolution appears characterized by periods of rapid innovation followed by long periods of relative stability. A persistent paradox emerges from this evidence. If advanced cognitive abilities provided significant evolutionary advantages, why did they evolve so late in Earth's history and only in one lineage? Why didn't similar capabilities evolve multiple times independently? Another frontier of research involves the reconstruction of ancient hominin diets through isotope analysis. By examining the chemical composition of fossil teeth, researchers can determine what ancient humans ate and how their diets changed over time. These analyses reveal that early Homo species had remarkably flexible diets compared to earlier hominins. This dietary adaptability likely enabled them to survive in diverse environments and may have been a key factor in their evolutionary success. Yet this finding presents another paradox. Many other mammal species developed dietary flexibility without evolving human-like intelligence. Dietary adaptability alone cannot explain the unique cognitive trajectory of human evolution. Recent neuroanatomical research has identified specific genetic changes that affected brain development in the human lineage. These include genes like FOXP2 associated with language and RGAP11B, which promotes brain growth, which show evidence of selection specifically in humans. These genetic changes appear to have occurred primarily in Africa. While Neanderthals and Denisovans shared some but not all of these mutations, suggesting that certain cognitive adaptations evolved specifically in the African human lineage after these groups diverged. This genomic evidence supports the hypothesis that something unique about African evolutionary pressures selected for specific cognitive traits. Yet it doesn't fully explain why similar selective pressures elsewhere didn't produce comparable adaptations in other species. The most recent frontier of research involves reconstructing the social structures of early human groups through analysis of archaeological sites. Patterns of resource distribution, tool sharing, and living space organization provide insights into how our ancestors organized their societies. These reconstructions suggest that uniquely human forms of cooperation emerged early in our lineage. Evidence of food sharing, collaborative hunting, and care for injured or elderly group members appears in the archaeological record, long before the emergence of Homo sapiens. This raises a profound paradox. If these cooperative behaviors provided significant evolutionary advantages, why didn't they evolve in other social species to the same degree? What was unique about the human evolutionary context that made extreme cooperation so advantageous? As we synthesize these recent advances, a clearer picture emerges of human evolution as a process uniquely shaped by Africa's evolutionary laboratory. Yet persistent paradoxes remain that continue to challenge our understanding of why humans evolved only on this continent. These paradoxes don't invalidate the African origin theory. Rather, they deepen our appreciation for how remarkable human evolution truly was, a process dependent on specific conditions and contingencies that apparently converged only in Africa. The evidence increasingly suggests that human evolution wasn't inevitable. Rather, it was the product of a unique evolutionary experiment that occurred under specific conditions found only in Africa, an experiment that might easily never have happened at all. Chapter 10. The African Crucible. Solving humanity's great mystery. As we've journeyed through the evidence and competing theories, we've gradually approached an answer to our central question. Why did humans evolve only in Africa? The answer, it turns out, involves a remarkable confluence of factors that created a unique evolutionary crucible found nowhere else on Earth. The evidence points toward what scientists now call the perfect storm hypothesis of human evolution. This theory proposes that human evolution required the simultaneous presence of multiple factors that converged only in Africa, specifically in the East African Rift Valley system. The first crucial factor was geological, the Great Rift Valley itself. This massive geological feature created a landscape unlike any other on Earth, a complex mosaic of environments ranging from dense forests to open savannas, from highlands to lowlands, all within relatively small geographical areas. The Rift Valley's formation began around 30 million years ago, when tectonic forces began pulling East Africa apart. This process created a vast system of valleys, highlands, and lakes, stretching from Ethiopia to Mozambique, the stage upon which human evolution would play out. What made this geological setting so significant was how it concentrated environmental diversity within walkable distances. Early hominins could potentially encounter multiple habitat types within a single day's travel, creating intense selection pressure for adaptability. The second critical factor was climatic. East Africa experienced a unique pattern of climate oscillations during key periods of human evolution. Lake core samples and other paleoclimate indicators reveal rapid alternations between wet and dry conditions at precisely the time human traits were emerging. Unlike gradual climate shifts elsewhere, East Africa experienced what scientists call high-frequency climate variability. Conditions could change substantially within a single generation, preventing adaptation through migration and instead favoring behavioral flexibility. The third factor was ecological. Africa maintained the world's highest diversity of large mammalian predators throughout the period of human evolution. This predator pressure created intense selection for defensive strategies, including social cooperation, tool use, and intelligence. The fourth factor was biological. Africa was home to the right ancestral species at the right time. The common ancestors of humans and chimpanzees lived specifically in African forests, providing the biological starting point from which human evolution would proceed. The fifth and perhaps most crucial factor was social. The specific distribution of resources in East Africa created conditions that favored unprecedented levels of cooperation. Patchy but high-quality resources created situations where group cooperation provided significant advantages. None of these factors alone would have been sufficient to drive human evolution. Many existed independently elsewhere. What made Africa unique was that all these factors converged simultaneously in one region, creating an evolutionary perfect storm. This perfect storm created selection pressure for a suite of adaptations that together define humanity. Bipedalism for efficient movement between different habitats. Manual dexterity for tool use. Expanded brains for environmental problem solving and social navigation. The evidence for this perfect storm hypothesis comes from multiple disciplines. Geological records confirm the unique landscape dynamics of the Rift Valley. Climate data reveals the specific patterns of variability that coincided with human evolution. Archaeological evidence shows how early human sites clustered in precisely these regions where multiple factors converged. The oldest and most diverse hominin fossils consistently come from areas where the Rift Valley created environmental mosaics and climate variability was most pronounced. Genetic evidence corroborates this geographic pattern. The greatest human genetic diversity exists in East Africa, exactly as we would expect if this region was the primary engine of human evolution for millions of years. What's most remarkable about this confluence of factors is its rarity. No other region on Earth had this specific combination of geological activity, climate variability, predator diversity, resource distribution, and ancestral ape populations. This explains why human evolution occurred only in Africa, despite similar apes existing in Asia. Asian environments lacked the particular combination of factors that drove hominin evolution in Africa. They had some pieces of the puzzle, but not all. It also explains why intelligence like ours evolved only once in Earth's 4.5 billion year history. If human evolution required this specific confluence of factors, it represents an extraordinary evolutionary contingency rather than an inevitable outcome. This conclusion has profound implications for how we understand ourselves. We are not the predictable outcome of evolution, favoring intelligence generally. We are the product of a remarkable and possibly unique evolutionary experiment that occurred under specific conditions in East Africa. The perfect storm hypothesis resolves many of the paradoxes we've encountered. It explains why similar climate patterns elsewhere didn't produce similar results, because climate was just one factor among many required for human evolution. It explains why other large-brained mammals didn't evolve human-like intelligence. Intelligence like ours wasn't simply about brain size, but about the specific cognitive adaptations that evolved in response to Africa's unique combination of selective pressures. It explains why even within Africa, human evolution was concentrated in specific regions. Only certain areas, particularly along the Rift Valley, had the complete set of conditions necessary to drive the evolution of human traits. This theory doesn't diminish human achievement or suggest environmental determinism. Rather, it highlights the remarkable journey our species has taken from a specific evolutionary context in Africa to a global presence that has transformed the planet. Understanding Africa's unique role in human evolution enhances our appreciation for humanity's place in nature. We are the outcome of specific evolutionary pressures in a specific place. Yet we've transcended those origins to create cultural and technological systems that extend far beyond our biological beginnings. The perfect storm hypothesis also offers insight into why modern humans ultimately replaced other human species despite sharing many cognitive capabilities. Our lineage evolved under the most intense version of Africa's unique selective pressures, potentially giving us slight but crucial advantages in behavioral flexibility. The evidence suggests that Africa wasn't just where humans happened to evolve. It was the only place on Earth where humans could have evolved, the only region with the complete set of conditions necessary to create our unique combination of traits. This realization transforms our understanding of human origins and our place in the cosmos. Far from being inevitable, our existence hinged on a remarkable confluence of factors that converged only once, in one place, during Earth's long history. What makes this conclusion so profound is how it changes our perspective on intelligence in the universe. If intelligence like ours required such specific conditions, it may be far rarer than we have assumed, even on planets capable of supporting complex life. The perfect storm hypothesis suggests that humanity's existence was highly contingent, dependent on specific factors that might rarely converge elsewhere. This doesn't mean intelligence is impossible elsewhere, but it suggests that intelligence exactly like ours might be extraordinarily uncommon. As we contemplate our origins in Africa's evolutionary laboratory, we gain a deeper appreciation for both human uniqueness and our connection to all life on Earth. We are simultaneously the product of universal evolutionary processes and a highly specific evolutionary experiment. Africa wasn't just the cradle of humanity in a geographical sense, it was the only possible birthplace of our species, the one place on Earth where the conditions necessary for human evolution converged. In a very real sense, Africa made us human. As our exploration of humanity's African origins concludes, we're left with a profound realization about our place in the cosmos. We are the children of a perfect evolutionary storm, a remarkable confluence of factors that converged only in Africa, only during a specific window of Earth's history. This understanding doesn't diminish human uniqueness, it deepens it. Our intelligence, our creativity, our capacity for cooperation and cultural transmission weren't inevitable evolutionary outcomes. They were the product of specific selective pressures found only in Africa. Africa's role as humanity's exclusive birthplace tells us something profound about who we are. We are not separate from nature, but intimately connected to it. The specific landscapes, climate patterns, and ecological relationships of East Africa shaped our very existence. As we look to the future, this understanding takes on new significance. If humanity emerged from specific environmental conditions, how might changing those conditions through climate change, habitat destruction, or technological modification affect our ongoing evolution? The story of our African origins reminds us of both our resilience and our vulnerability. We evolved in response to environmental challenges, developing unprecedented adaptability. Yet the specific conditions that made us human no longer exist in their original form. Perhaps most profound is the realization that we are all African in origin. Every human lineage, regardless of current geography or appearance, traces back to African ancestors. This shared heritage unites humanity at a fundamental level that transcends superficial differences. As we contemplate the long arc of human evolution from early bipedal apes to spacefaring civilization, the journey seems almost impossibly unlikely. Had conditions been slightly different in East Africa millions of years ago, beings like us might never have evolved at all. This perspective invites both humility and wonder. We are simultaneously the product of ordinary evolutionary processes and an extraordinary evolutionary experiment that happened only once in one place. If you've enjoyed this exploration of our origins, please subscribe for more journeys into humanity's deepest mysteries and our place in the cosmos.